They look fine, calm, no emotional post, no dramatic behavior, no sign that anything is wrong. And if you've been watching them, waiting for some sign that they're struggling too, then it probably feels like that day is never coming. But here's what most people get wrong about avoidance after a breakup: the calm, distant confidence isn't certainty, it's suppression. And suppression doesn't last because there's a specific stage after the relief, after the rebound, after the distractions, where suppression stops working, where certainty starts to erode from the inside and they start second guessing the breakup. Most people miss it because the signs are not obvious. So I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like, how they get there, and what to do when it happens. Second guessing doesn't start with missing you. It starts when they settle down, relax, and focus on their day to day life. Here's what happens after a breakup. First, they feel this sense of relief. They notice how the emotional pressure is starting to lift, tension is fading, and they feel more in control. Now, that part is real, and most people mistake it as their ex moving on. But eventually, they learn that an avoidant in this first stage naturally keeps moving forward, staying busy, and not stopping long enough for the emotions to catch up. This is a process psychologists call deactivation. New hobbies, new social plans, a packed schedule, all of it creates enough noise to keep those feelings at a distance. But as time goes by, those activities start to slow down. They let go of new hobbies, drift away from new relationships, and life returns to its normal baseline. Except now that baseline feels a little emptier than it did before. Here's what that looks like from the outside. They post less, their stories slow down, the look how great I'm doing energy really starts to soften as they let go of all the distractions. Now, that's the first sign to watch for. Not sadness, not remorse, just life starting to shift into a more restful, quiet state. Now, most people miss this because they're watching for their ex to look heartbroken. But if you look closely, the pattern becomes visible. First, their behavior shifts, then their emotions change. And once that shift is starting to happen, something they didn't plan for starts to occur. The emotions they haven't been processing begin to surface. And this is where your choices matter. If you stay silent, no texting, no checking in, then those feelings have room to grow. But if you reach out now, you interrupt the process. So keep that in mind as we move on to the next stage. When people are starting to learn more about their avoidant partner, the one thing they eventually notice is this: avoidants don't just value independence. Independence is a core part of their identity, which means they tend to feel safer relying on their own judgment rather than depending on someone else. And what that means to you is this: early on in a breakup, they can appear very certain about the decision. They might seem detached, practical, even cold about the whole thing. And if you try to talk to them about the relationship or persuade them in any way, they double down on their decision. You might hear them say, "I can't do this anymore. I can't give you what you need. You deserve better." But there's one detail here that explains what is really happening. After a breakup, You might continue to focus on all of the reasons the two of you connect so deeply, while an avoidant, at first, will stay focused on the problems, the friction, and the reasons they left. But here's the key point: staying in no contact has a way of changing what the avoidant is thinking about. Consider what happens next in stage two. Little by little, the emotional weight of the breakup is starting to shift. The distractions are quietly fading away, and as things settle down, they slowly begin to unwind, relax, and think more about the relationship. And as that happens, the memories that feel good now start to surface. A conversation that made them laugh, a show you watched together, places you went, music you shared, jokes no one else would understand. Bit by bit, the picture is becoming clearer, and they remember how loving, supportive, and safe this feels. Now, this is where it stops making sense, because what looks like them second guessing the breakup is only the beginning of something else. So let's unpack this piece by piece, because often when people hear this explained clearly, everything clicks into place and starts to make sense. Instead of relying on other people, avoidants often slow down, turn their awareness inward, and rely on their own judgment and independence to feel safe. Now, that's a subconscious pattern they developed early in childhood. And in a way, breaking up with you fits that self reliant pattern. It reinforces the belief that being on their own is the safest, most stable place to be. So, when memories of you start to surface that feel good, now that self reliant pattern is disrupted. That creates a problem. Two things are true at the same time. Being on their own still feels right, but the relationship also felt good. Those two things are in conflict. And the biggest mistake people make when explaining this stage is to tell you that this conflict, this inner tension, is them second guessing the breakup. That's not really what's happening yet. What's actually happening is much more complex. And understanding it is the key to knowing if you should reach out or stay in no contact. Now, this is one of the hardest positions to be in, and I created something to help you: the no contact safety net. It shows you three things: how to do no contact, how to correct any mistakes you make, and exactly how to reply to messages from your ex. The link is in the description. It was made for exactly where you are. Now, reaching out, it feels like the right thing to do, because people mistake that inner tension and conflict as the point where they are second guessing the breakup. They see their ex watching their stories, maybe a mutual friend tells you that they asked about you, or they text you with a "hope you're well" message. But what's really happening is this: the self reliant pattern that justified the breakup is being disrupted, which means they're less certain about their own judgment, less certain about being alone, less certain about what feels right for them. Now, this is the moment when something is really beginning to change inside. And once that happens, it naturally opens the door for them to start missing you and second guessing the breakup. But right now, at this stage, their instinct is to really protect the self reliant pattern that's kept them safe their entire life. And because of that, they can be really defensive if you reach out and break no contact. They might get angry. They might act like the breakup was all your fault. They might say they were the one who got hurt, or they might just shut down and disappear all over again, which from the outside makes them look even more certain than ever. But the critical thing to understand here is this: that certainty has become something they are actively defending. And when people have to actively defend certainty, it becomes surprisingly fragile. What you are watching is someone whose defensive pattern is quietly being interrupted. And the most powerful thing you can do at this point is stay in no contact and allow that internal process to happen until they reach stage 3. Now, once some time has passed, life is more calm, certainty has become fragile, and those good memories have started to surface, then their mind naturally starts to connect the pieces together in the background, which means certain thoughts start to pop up. Was it actually as bad as I thought it was? Did I handle things in the right way? This is the one person who I could really relax and feel safe with. So, did I make the right choice? Did I give them enough? Or was I afraid of how close we were getting? What's interesting about this is when avoidant people start second guessing a breakup, it rarely seems obvious at first. More often, it shows up as them being curious about you and your life. They react more emotionally when something reminds them of you, or there's a shift in how they talk to people about your relationship. Now, when you've seen it enough times, behavior starts to make sense because second guessing for avoidance is an internal process. It doesn't produce dramatic behavior. They'll start to tell their friends how it's harder now to find someone they can really connect with, that conversations with other people just feel shallow and surface level, like there's no real depth or meaning with anyone else. They're not necessarily saying your name, but they are describing exactly what exists between you. Now, as you look closely at that pattern, the meaning becomes clear. In the background of their mind, they are comparing almost every new interaction they have with you, whether they're aware of it or not. And here's what that comparison is quietly doing: it's causing them to second guess the breakup. Now, they might start bringing up the relationship without being asked. They start to go through the reasons for the breakup again, but this time it's different. They sound like someone who is starting to talk themselves out of a decision they've made. And eventually, they think, what would happen if we actually talked again? How would things be different now? Here's the reality. Over time, some people tend to change more slowly, while others change more quickly. But when they stop defending the breakup and start reevaluating the good moments you shared, the positive qualities you have, and realize the problems were not as big as they once believed, then they are truly second guessing the breakup. Now, when avoidants start second guessing the breakup, there's a short window where many of them reach out again. If you want to know what that looks like and how not to ruin it when it happens, then watch this video next. I'll see you there.